Here.
Mr. Moreno?
Here.
Mr. Santana not present. Mr. Mata?
Present.
Mr. Santiago?
Here.
Mr. Stout?
Here.
Mr. Goff?
Here.
And Interim Manager Hernandez is not.
Understand. Why don't we stand for the pledge of allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Why don't we stay standing? One thing that's not on the agenda, should be on the agenda, is prayer. Mr. Santiago, would you like to lead us in a word of prayer?
Yes, please bow your heads, close your eyes. Dear Father, thank you for bringing us here today. Let us all have a joyful meeting and all get home safe. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. You can be seated. So little change to our meeting, if approved by the board at our last meeting. If you notice on section 4, if you have an agenda on section 4, it says old and new business, A through G. If you'd like to speak on anything before we vote on that, if you would, fill out a card. And when it's time to discuss this, if you're on there, you can speak about what you want to speak about before the board votes on it. So that's something new that was approved by the board last meeting, and moving on. With that,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
sorry here. Oh, here it is. May I add, so item 4D, for the
4D.
David, should really be 4A. It's kind of like, it has to do with seat number 3.
So 4D is actually 4A?
Yes, sir.
4D.
You could just maybe swap them.
Okay, so that one would be D and this one would be A. Okay? Anything else? So anyone have any additions, deletions, substitutions to any agenda items that we have? None said. Adoption of an agenda. Should be fine with that, right? Right, Mr. Camaro?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, just
Do we need
adopt the revised agenda. We just adopt.
Do we need a motion for that or anything? Or no?
Unless there are any objections?
Any objections to changing 4A to 4D and 4D to 4A? No objection from the board, so be it. C is approval of regular and budget board meetings on October 19th, 2024. Any board member like to make a motion of approval? Anybody seen the meeting minutes for this? Okay. So no meeting minutes to approve? Gotcha. Moving on, so we're going into public comments. We have one here. Mr. Tony Martinez, please.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Just asking about the easement. We've been asking for the last 2 years. I have a 10-foot easement, and yes, we're gonna look into it. A
Yes,
few
sir.
months back, about abandoning it, that way I can join it with my other property, and I can save some tax money. I can homestead it.
Yes, sir.
So-
John, do you have any update on that one?
Yes, I have a form that I'm gonna pass out so that in the future, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's a form where you put in the legal description and you vacate the easement. I've got so many things going on tonight. If you give me 1 second, I'll find it. I'll get you all copies.
Can I chair? Can I speak, Chair? Can I speak on that?
Okay.
John, if I'm not mistaken, we got with your office about meeting with him about a couple months ago, and getting him some kind of direction or letter from the board, because I know the board had voted, to vacate it.
Here it is. Yeah, he doesn't need so he actually has to record something. So this board has to, I'm gonna pass it out. Okay, here we go. So if you could just please take one and pass it out. So what you're gonna be receiving is called the vacation of easement. And it's something that gets recorded in the Hendry County Public Records. Once this gets recorded, he has clear title, the easement goes, it's gone. So, because it's an interest in real property, a letter can't do it. You have to actually.
Yeah, no, that's what they told me in
Well,
the city.
yeah, I'm just explaining it to him, that you have to have something that's recorded. So, so this is a form from now on, when somebody like this gentleman comes to the board and says, I own property, you know, at so-and-so address, and this board says, we're okay vacating the easement, then all we need is the legal description for you. The legal description is Exhibit A. You fill in a few blanks, and it gets recorded.
Don't you guys need to sign on it, saying you're releasing it?
Well,
Because, I mean, I can pick up this form and fill it out and take it over there, how they're gonna know that you guys did it?
of course, yes, the sign. There's a signature block. So this is a form. We're gonna use it for you.
Okay.
This is a form. And this board, have you already voted on his, situation? Okay. So then at the end of this meeting now, we'll fill it in. If you could provide me with the legal description of the easement, I'll make it Exhibit A to this. You don't have it?
I'm kidding to look it up.
Yeah.
I don't know what offhand.
Well.
Yeah, you just look for your parcel ID on your, any kind of
You
document.
just, you can email it to Becky, we'll attach it, we'll get this recorded and stored.
It's not like this, but if you have time, we'll show you how to do it on any kind of property.
You don't have to sign anything here, this is something we fill out.
Okay.
And then I made it so that the legal description of the easement that's being vacated will be an exhibit. So you keep the same form, and all that changes is the exhibit, the legal description of the easement. So if you go to your deed, it'll be on your deed.
Yeah, I have it in the house.
You can take a picture of it and email it, or copy it, or however you want to do it. You get it to Becky, that's Exhibit A, done, it gets recorded.
Perfect.
John, one question.
Yes.
Anybody else that wants to do this, do they get the paper from Central County or?
Yes, from Becky.
Okay.
But they still have to come to you on a case-by-case basis for you to say, we looked at your property, we have no interest in this easement, we're gonna let it go.
I thought we voted for it straight across the board.
I don't think that
That's
wasn't.
not a good idea. You don't wanna just wave and just do, I don't know what's out there, but that's dangerous to do. And plus, then you got, I don't know how many hundreds of people are gonna, some of them don't care, some of them don't.
Yeah.
I think we just need to, like this gentleman,
Yeah.
say, here's my situation, you agree with him. It's a simple form that will take 30 seconds to fill out if we have the legal description, done.
Yeah.
Now, but because it's a release, anything having to do with real property, buying, selling, releasing, only you can do it. Staff does not have the authority.
Yeah, because the reason I asked was that prior to me being a board member, I asked about this, because I have a property that actually has that easement. And when I brought it up, I mean, it became very political and it turned into a big headache, and it was never gonna get passed through the board. That's why I
If you
kinda
look in
wanna-
fine print, it says, oh, Chris Self cannot use this more. It's right here,
I know.
right? Really tiny, tiny writing.
I know, no, but I just gotta make sure I
That's it,
clarify
good,
that.
that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, nothing with that, so we're going on to over the new business, so we'll go to 4A, John, discuss and vote qualifying application and
Okay.
related election issue.
Yeah, so hopefully everybody here, you check your emails semi-regularly. I've been sending a series of emails looking into everything from alleged conflict of interest, election violations, resolutions, and all that other good stuff. So the issue is, we had an election for seat number 3. And I wasn't at the landowners meeting, I had another engagement, but as I understand it, there was a question over whether the candidate, Mr. Cortez, whether Mr. Cortez, I'm sorry, I have a friend that's Rick Corona, Mr. Cortez, kindly filed his qualifying application. And what we discovered upon further research was that there was a public notice, anytime we have a meeting, you do a public notice in the newspaper of general circulation. In this case, it's the Clueston paper.
Hold on, Mr. Mayor, you've got some ringing going on.
Yeah. And one of these days, because it really, I don't know if it's
I can
because
hear
where I'm
him.
at, but it doesn't line, I have to speak away from the counter to, we can move it someday, but, so what we discovered was that the public notice had the final day to submit your qualification. The deadline was set at 9 a.m. And when you look at on the day we, as you know, every other year, I bring to you an elections resolution. It kind of is the rules of the road for the election that will be coming up several months later. In this case, you adopted a resolution. Among other things, the resolution set the qualifying period. That resolution set the last day for the qualifying period. The deadline was 5 p.m., not 9 a.m. And so Mr. Cortez was here at that meeting. He had a copy of the resolution. It was given to him. And he looked at it and saw 5 p.m. deadline. And he relied on that. And after doing some research and looking at, there's a concept in law called detrimental reliance. Like, for example, if you call a government agency and say, oh, I've got to file my application, and the person from the government says, oh, don't worry, it's due tomorrow, and you go, oh, good. In actuality, it was due that day. Detrimental reliance allows you to rely on information you got from a reputable source. In this case, the source is the resolution itself that had a 5 p.m. deadline. So based on our research, for that reason, I believe Mr. Cortez should be sworn in as the supervisor for seat number 3.
Question for you with that, and I'm cool with that because he did do a good job and he got the vote. So clarification for the board and for the community is, during what meeting are you discussing?
You mean the resolution?
Yes, sir.
It was, so the one I have here isn't, of course, what,
June 26th.
June 23rd? Yeah, it was in the summer.
So if you, I'm glad you said that. So if you look at the meeting of June 26th, nothing was discussed about time. Only thing discussed was dates. So so follow what I'm saying. So follow what I'm saying. This is the only thing that I'm saying here. Because this election was a complete fiasco, in my opinion.
It was.
So on June 26th, that meeting, because I happened to look at the meeting, I wasn't here. Mr. Santiago was on the chair, and most of the members were here. So what got approved in that meeting was the dates. And according to what you had said in that meeting is, pull what's there and just change the dates. So my question to you is, how did it change and why did it change? Was it yourself, your office, or Becky in her office? Because we're not jiving for some reason.
Yeah, so you're right. The time was in the resolution. The time wasn't discussed because frankly, whenever you set a deadline on a day, it's always the close of business. I've never heard of a deadline at 9 a.m.
So,
And that was just, I think it was a typographical error in the
so
public notice.
if you look at every landowner meeting that we've had since going back, it's always been 9 a.m.
Not true.
I did.
Hold
I
on.
did. And only one of
Okay.
the 8 that I
Gotcha.
looked at,
Okay.
it was 9 a.m.
Okay, all right. So with that being said, then, again, he did a really good job in his campaign, and he definitely did it. I just wanted to make sure, the clarification, because that's like the third mess up on that election.
It,
And it doesn't
Believe me,
it doesn't seem
the
to,
mess
it doesn't
of
seem to
these-
stop.
You're right. It seems almost every landowner election, there's something
Yeah.
that comes up that's a mess.
So unfortunately, for probably 20 years, there has been foul play in elections. So, hopefully that now, this is something that been brought up back in 2018. And now it's like, we have to repeat history over and over and over again. Hopefully by this time, I hope that the board sees that this is an issue and that something needs to be done, because who ends up suffering and has to pay for this is the community. I don't think it's right that the community comes out, votes,
Absolutely.
and then this same process, nothing gets fixed, and then when somebody brings it up, they get slapped around, problem started. That ain't the way. This is something that should have been addressed way back in 2018. We're in 2024, and we're still here. So hopefully we're going to learn from the past, because it's still here and not present.
Good comment. So what do you need from the board, Mr. Primero? Does anybody else on the board have any comments?
Yeah, I got a comment. You say you review 8 of those in prior years. There's only one of them were at 9 a.m. Where do we have information for the landowner to look at moving forward that we says 5 p.m. on the day of the election? That way it doesn't happen again. Do we need to put that, part of this meeting, or do we need to amend the resolution? What we need to do in order that not to happen anymore?
Well, the resolution, so we're not gonna have a landowner election for 2 years. So
Okay.
we always, every 2 years, we bring it to you, usually in the summer, when you, as a board, set the qualifying period. So I think we just have to be very careful when looking at the resolutions to make sure that everything is right and there are no typographical or other errors in it.
Why can't we amend that now, the time, it will be 5 p.m. moving forward? We can
Oh,
change the date,
sure.
we can
I mean, you
do
can-
all that eliminate, making mistake, would be, the only mistake would be the date.
Sure.
Either a Monday or Saturday or Sunday, it'll be, but the time that really occurred this election, last month,
Yes,
the confusion,
yes.
so.
Yeah, if you want, you can do that. You can say, from now on, whenever we set the deadline, whatever date that is,
This
the
is
closing
cutoff,
period should be 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Yes.
Eliminate all this, concern, confusion, or whatever may be the case on the landowner side, not to, think, that, prior years. And again, I like to keep, dump the prior years, don't carry that many more forward. We need to move forward with the new, changes that we need to put in Montura. That's what I like to,
Yeah, we've been trying to, we just hear it. But like the 9 o'clock, I don't think I think that's a big disservice to anybody that wants to run. I wouldn't even
that's
understand why.
odd, to see 9 a.m.
Right,
That's what I'm saying.
right.
Let's make it 5 o'clock p.m. moving forward for any, until 100 years from now.
So John, what's the path to move forward? Close this.
So, one thing I'd like to do when you're ready is swear in, but if you want to act on, he's got, I guess, a motion.
Yeah,
we
I want to put
can do it. We can do it after we finish.
Okay.
We'll make a motion after it's finished, so we keep on with the agenda.
All right, so I think the next thing to do would be to swear in the candidate for seat number 3. If you can stand up, please. And I'm going to swear you in. Could you come up to the microphone there? This is a very brief oath, and I'm going to read a few words and just repeat after me. If you can just raise your right hand. And I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida. That I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of Florida. And I will faithfully perform the duties of the office which I am now about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations.
Mr. Cortez. Gotcha. All right. So we'll add that to the next one. Mr. Moreno.
Effective.
No.
gonna do for the gentleman with the easement, after this meeting, Mr. Monica, I'm gonna need you to sign a resolution. So whenever we do a vacation of easement, there's gonna be a resolution that says, on this date, the board voted to, release the easement, and then we'll have the actual vacation of
Do you need, like, my information now?
You can just give it to Becky, but here's a copy of the resolution, you're gonna receive it later. So you're gonna get a resolution and a completed resolution and an easement.
All right, so moving on, before we move on to 4B, forgive me, I know Benita's last name, Monica? Monica, I'm sorry, I didn't see the I, sorry. Ms. Benita, Monica Benitez, would you like to speak?
Yes. I don't have all my notes of what I really wanted to talk about, but I did have one thing that I wanted to address. And my husband and I have been living here for a little over 2 years now. And ever since I can recall, there hasn't been a district manager in a position. And I'm just wondering why it has not been brought to the attention of the board members or been a priority that we don't hire somebody. Because we wouldn't hire the trash man to be the interim lawyer, because he doesn't know what he's doing. We wouldn't hire the another person to be in your position that doesn't know what they're doing. So we're putting people into power that don't have any experience, and I think a lot of the issues that are arising is because we have these people in positions that they don't, I'm not gonna say deserve, they just don't have the knowledge for, and why has it taken so long for that to be addressed? Because I think a lot of the issues that are going on right now could be resolved if we had somebody that had knowledge in the position that they're supposed to be in.
Thank you, Ms. Benitez. Anything else with that?
No.
We'll respond. Mr. Ferrer, do you want to respond as well? What we've been trying to do for the last year and a
14
half?
months.
You want me to respond why?
No,
Was this elected
well,
manager?
no, it's not that. So the reason, so I'll speak on it. So the reason why a manager has not been picked is, first and foremost, is the qualifications have not, that we've received, the applicants have not been up to par. The applications go to our lawyer first. Second, so I guess in the last 4 months, 3 or 4 months, there seems to be a better selection of candidates than in times past. I think his office has received almost 200 applications, and I'd say probably 98% have been disqualified or don't have the knowledge and the understanding to run a Central County Water Control District. So that's why most of us, I can't speak for everybody on the board, that's why most of us have not put a district manager in there, because first and foremost, as has been stated many times, is people just put people in positions. So Ms. Hernandez is serving as an interim district manager for probably over a year, John?
Approximately, yeah.
And I think
14 months, guys.
it's 14 months, so, and instead of just giving her the position, I think most of us on this board has said we'd like for a process to take place so we can vet out and pick the most qualified person that there is. So it has been
If I could
tedious.
add to that, Mr. Chair, so actually I've reviewed 133 applications this year. And, you know, let's have a little bit of context. So whether you own Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, or I can tell you my firm, we're leaving the most difficult period in my lifetime for labor, hiring good, reliable people. We've had full employment post-COVID. It's been, I have a client that owns 12 Dunkin' Donuts. You ask him what's his number one challenge? Finding reliable people to work. Many business owners will tell you that. I can tell you my firm, the cost of employees after COVID skyrocketed and the quality went down. And so part of it is we were searching at a time when, I mean, I can tell you, I've spoken to Mr. Self about this. He has personally gone through all 133 applications. 80% of them had no business submitting an application because they had absolutely no background in this area, maybe close to 90%. It's been difficult because the first pool we got was, you and I have talked about this, was not good. And again, we're just now getting out of this very, very tight labor market. But again, that decision is up to the board when to hire, because if you hire the wrong person and it doesn't work out, unraveling that is a nightmare.
Yeah, but unfortunately, unraveling the last 14 months of somebody not knowing, because you can't just take somebody that's been in an administrative assistant position and put them in a position where they have to know all these things. And I first wanted to put the blame on her because a lot of things weren't getting done, but when you honestly don't know, you can't expect much from a person. And as a business owner, and my husband we know about the labor market, but I can't conceive that in 14 months you haven't had just one person that was a little more qualified with a little bit more knowledge than the person we currently have in position right now. That's just, to me, it's kind of hard to understand coming as a business owner, so I know that sometimes things get pushed aside, but has any candidates been brought to you guys for talk at all, like out of the 133 applications?
All 133 have been shared with them.
And none of the
133.
133 people have been more competent than the leadership you have now?
So I don't know, I turned in my list of the ones that I'd like to see interviewed. I don't know if anybody else on the board has.
No, I made a recommendation of 10
Yeah.
out of that. You made a recommendation, I think there's a lot of similarity in our recommendations.
Yeah.
But of course, all 133 applications have been shared with the board over the last year.
Cause I know I
And
didn't.
we're gonna talk about some of the issues with, because when you select somebody, we have to talk about the interview process, because you're a public agency, you can't just, sit in a room, but you have to either, well, I'm not gonna get into it now, but it's on the agenda.
Yeah, we had.
I just want to make sure that I know that you spoke, I wanted to hear from everybody else. Have you guys been brought applicants to review, and have you
Sure.
discussed it amongst yourselves to actually interview somebody?
So we can't really talk amongst ourselves about the applicants, so what we have done is, most of us said, is we've reviewed some of the candidates, and we're allowing this process to unfortunately drag itself out, but we're trying to get to the final. That's why we put pressure on our lawyers to get us to this deadline, so we can make a good decision, so we can move forward in this community and put like you said, the 14 months behind it so we can go forward.
We did have a delay whenever they did the first poll. A few of us brought up that we wanted to try again, and then those certain board members that just didn't want to, they just wanted to stick the interim manager as the manager, and then they delayed it for quite a few months. Until finally, it's like we had to do something, then they finally decided to do the poll. So that kind of delayed, I don't even remember how many months we went through that nonsense.
Quite a while.
They should have just,
I just hope that the board has the best interest of the people in heart and not just personal reasons, because I know a lot of you guys have jobs and you're probably professionals in your career. I know that you would have the mental capacity to know that you would have to put a qualified person into power, not just because they are, close family member. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we're moving on with 4B. I think that's yourself, John, District Manager, interview scoring.
Took on most of the agenda tonight. There's two different but related issues. When you hire the district manager, and I think I briefed you on this 3 or 4 months ago, and I've sent you emails on it, but I'm going to say it again. You have to do two things. You have to have an interview process, and then you have to have a scoring process. You can't just say, I like so-and-so, because government, you've got to be transparent. So I have drafted a proposed scoring sheet, which follows what I articulated for you a year ago, which was, I think, the three key criteria for a district manager. Which is number one, management or supervisory experience. Number two, experience with budgets, financial management. And number three, experience with heavy equipment, construction, things of that nature. Those are, when I was asked, I'm not HR, I'm a lawyer,
Sure.
but because Becky was in the candidate pool, I was asked to do the HR screening, which I agreed to do. And that's the criteria I told you a year ago I was going to be using in my review, and you said, sounds good. So that's the criteria I applied in the names that I gave you. I think there maybe is one or two candidates that meet all three. I was of the 133, so maybe two, maybe three, you can argue meet those three criteria. But one of the things, we need to think about too is compensation. If you do find that person, I would ask around to get a sense of what district managers or equivalent districts are making, so that if and when you find that person, you can actually hire them. Because a lot of people apply for jobs, but then they say, well, I'm interested in a job, but I need you to pay me X. So just think about that. But so anyways, the two things are interview process. So because you're government, you can't meet in a room. You can interview candidates in a public forum.
Sure.
So you can put 10 people over there and ask them to stand up one by one. Or you can put one person there and the other 9 can be in the office and they get called one by one. I've been interviewed that way. When a government agency hires a lawyer, there's a process very similar to that. So that's one option. The con, the pro is, it is the fastest, most efficient way. The con is many people who apply for jobs already have a job. They're just looking for growth, for change, and don't necessarily want their name in a public forum or on YouTube. And so some people would immediately shy away if they knew that, because a lot of people that apply for government don't realize that their application is a public record. Anybody can get a copy of it. They think it's just like any private employer, which it's not. So that's option one. Option two is it's like a round robin, and I've also personally gone through this, where 5 board members, let's say we go into the clubhouse and we get 5 rooms or 5 corners. You bring all the candidates there and they spend 30 minutes with one board member. They get up, they walk to the other board member 30 minutes and literally make the rounds. And then with each of those, I'm kind of handling 2 agenda items as one. And for each of those interviews, you will have a score sheet. You have criteria on the score sheet, and you rate them on that criteria 1 to 5. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. And then at the end of the interview process, you tally up your scores. In both cases, you need a score sheet. So that's one decision you have to make. How are you going to do these interviews? I've outlined for you 2 options. You now need to discuss them and pick.
With that being said, board, the floor is open to discussion on our interview process.
Yeah, if may I?
Go ahead.
I suggested a month or 2 ago, that we do an open forum. We have it here at the meeting. And they each get a certain time frame to present themselves, why they want the position. And that allows the board to be in unison to ask them questions pertaining to the position, but as well as they get the feel of the board as a whole, not as an individual. Because we are the board together, and our vote is depending us as individuals. So I think if we're appointing a new manager, I think we should all be together when we make that decision, on if he or she, becomes the new manager, depending on the applicants. And the other thing is, if they're willing to coming before also with some of the community members present, they get the feel of hearing feedback from the community as well. So I think that's something that we should do. It's a fast way to get a manager in, and as well as we all can feed off of each other when asking questions, to the manager.
Thank you. Anybody else on the board have a different one?
So I like the open forum, but I think we should do them separate and have different dates on each interview. And we may have to do, separate dates besides our regular approved, meeting dates, because if I'm sitting there and I'm getting interviewed, I'm gonna listen to what the other guy's answering. So anyone that has a little sense is gonna copy some of the responses. They may not be, verbatim, but they're gonna use some of those words. So to kind of separate that, I think we can do open, but do separate meetings for each one, aside from our regular meetings. And if it's 3, if it's 5, interview those guys and.
Yeah, what you see, what I'm passing around is basically what I just explained to you. So what I have is the list of the 10 candidates which were proposed a few months ago. And we have previously discussed and agreed that Becky and Mr. Moreno, as a professional courtesy, would be part of the pool. So the second page is the list of those individuals. The next page is the options with the interview process. And then the last page is the candidate scoring sheet. So if you go to the very last, and again, this is just me coming up with something that you can use. You can use whatever you want. You can change this. You can edit it. This is just me taking a stab to try to help you in being your HR director.
Okay. Anybody else on the board want to discuss on the interviewing process? Thank you, John. Anybody else on the board want to discuss on the interviewing process?
Yes,
What
I
they'd
do.
like to see? Or what they think would work?
I agree with Mr. Cortez, right? Not having all the candidates here on the floor making the interview, but to expedite the process, we need to come up with a 5-10 candidate that Mr. Fumero picked. Bring them in, a specific date, and we keep them 9 over there, we bring over here, we rotate them. That way they don't pick up from people one of each other. And that way we can eliminate and get this process going and hire the manager. So we need to expedite this right away. We cannot continue waiting another few more months. That'll be the best way I look at it, to sign them over here and make sure it's not a regular meeting, by the way, neither. And also for the community to be here present too. I like the community to be present when we do those interviews.
So you want a public interview then?
Public interview, bring all 5 or 6, whatever we decide to bring them in. For this, we bring one at a time. We keep the other one in the office and we rotate them.
Yeah.
Okay? But let's do this as soon as possible.
Anybody else? I'm flexible. I can go either way. I see the pros and cons on both sides. But I'm flexible. I won't be in the way. I'm good.
Whatever gets a manager in the next couple months.
Fine. So anybody on the board want to make a motion on how we should go?
I want to put a motion for, we can bring X amount of candidates, interview one by one, separate in the open forum.
Do you want it, John, give a certain amount of time frame? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, so we don't go forever?
And by the way, that's the way I was selected. A few lawyers, and we sat in the office,
Sure.
and we did interviews, and we just swapped out, so that's perfectly acceptable. So, to answer your question, it's really gonna be a function of how many you shortlist.
Understood.
I think 10 is a lot. So in this package I gave you are the recommendations.
Sure.
But, so if you say, well, we're gonna pick 5, let's say, then I think 20, 30 minutes for each is reasonable.
3 hours.
Yeah. May I also say that you probably want to schedule them like on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Because these people, I believe from what I see, most of them have jobs.
Sure.
And not all of them are in the area. In fact, most of them are not in
Sure.
the area. And so probably a Saturday afternoon might be, we'll get a greater likelihood of getting everybody in that day.
Yeah, I think I want to ask all the board members, like, could we limit it down to say, you know, choose 4? 'Cause I mean, I went through everybody, and there's really maybe 4. And to do 10 is too much, to do 5 would be a lot. If we limit it down to 3 or 4, I'm talking about if we did 3 Saturdays, in 3 weeks we'll have 3 interviews done, and then,
You might be able to, if
We do 4 during the day, I mean, on an
you can
afternoon.
do 4 in one day easily.
oh, yeah, if we do that, do it all in one day, I mean, we could have this pretty much knocked out by hopefully January or December, I don't know, it depends.
Well, remember too, so you pick somebody and let's assume
Yeah, available.
that they're available, and, because, you know, some people like to give 30-day notice, be respectful to their employer, and which is a nice thing. And then, we have to negotiate an employment agreement, and a salary, and benefits,
So I think that's gonna
and
be,
then that's gotta be acted on by you.
Look, if,
So, January would be ambitious, assuming, because again, this is government, you meet once a month, we have to have a special meeting to do the interviews. But again, I think it's doable.
Sure.
go ahead.
So on the application that was submitted, was sent out to them, there was no pay cap, there was nothing,
You chose,
Specified on-
I don't agree, I believe in putting a pay range. You chose not to at the time, so there is no pay range.
That doesn't-
okay. I was under the impression we did. We put
You
the amount that was.
specifically voted not to have a pay range,
So right now, these people have no idea what it is.
0.
So if we tell them, oh, we're only gonna pay what they get paid now, and we go through all this process, and they say, well, we don't want it, then we're back at square one that 14 months ago.
That's right. I remember the conversation very well, because
Well, I think we
at
have,
the time you just
I
didn't want to get
think,
into.
so I think we have a guideline because of the,
Yes.
hold on. We don't, but we do have a kind of a guideline because we have an actually district manager, so there is a salary there that we can say, this is a baseline. And then again, you can look at their credentials, years of experience, and then, you know, but there definitely has to be like a start, medium, and then for your top down.
Yeah, and I mean,
And I'm pretty sure anybody in their right mind's gonna ask for a package. And what kind of package am I looking at?
exactly, yeah, and as you see with the last 3 directors, you know, there's everything from holiday leave time, sick leave, increases, how those are calculated, whether it's an annual performance review versus whatever the employees get, they get. There's a lot of different options. Listen, I can negotiate an agreement,
So then-
bring it to you, you know, that's not hard, but it's the salary is gonna be the issue, because salaries have also
Gone up?
skyrocketed.
Yes, sir, that's true. So Daniel, there is kind of a position, there's kind of a number there of what the acting district manager makes. And then, you know, you can base it on that, because I'm sitting on review. One of the questions I'm gonna ask, what is my compensation? What is my salary compensation?
So if I may make a suggestion, to save you time, to save everybody time, if you want, again, this is your choice, it's not unusual when you're doing a recruitment for someone to do a pre-qualification interview by phone, where I can say, hey, here's the range.
Sure.
And if they say click, so we're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna have an interview with them. Because I don't know, I haven't spoken to any of these people, so they may say, that's exciting, I love it, or may say, you're joking, you know, click. So maybe if you give me that, I will, when I call these people to schedule interviews, I'll say, by the way, here's the range, and that the exact number will be set based on your skills, your qualifications, your experience, but here's a range so that you know. And if, you know, if they're making that, like, Mr. Santiago said, then, you know, they're probably gonna say no thanks. We don't know.
So is there a way that the board members that, I don't know if y'all went through all these names, but would y'all be able to get these names turned into John by the end of the week? I already got mine, and I don't know
I printed a few sets of extra applications. If some of you don't like reading from a computer, you want hard copies, but these are the 10 that I identified, and I will tell you, I agree with Chris.
How many
You
of
look
these?
really nice, you maybe find 4 that are remotely qualified,
yeah, I only found 4 and,
and you're being generous.
right.
But anyways, I brought extra copies, if anyone would like to take them with them.
So, short list them,
So,
and
so
you have
all
anything
10,
else?
so you just take one
Yeah.
from each
Do
list.
you have any other thing, because he was making a motion?
No, it's just the open forum.
Okay. So, can you finish on your motion then? Can you finish on your motion?
Would be on, my motion would be on, bring him in on a Saturday, let's cut it down to 4 or 5, 20 minutes, and interview one at a time, keep the other 3 or 4 away, and, with open forum for the public, to hear what I have to say.
So, when you say open forum, that means they
They stand right there in front
in
of
front of
us,
all of us, and we all ask
ask questions.
loaded questions and everything? Okay. All right, so that
Like
motion
a
is.
panel interview, that's what I call it.
Yes, sir. So we have a motion on the floor to have an open forum, whatever date we pick, in front of all of us as well as our community that attends that meeting. We have a motion on the floor by Supervisor Moreno. Do we have a second?
Aye.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, John.
Very good.
Now we can find a date.
Yeah, and then for our voting, should we vote the same day? Should we give it a week? Faster, because I think faster we get it
I
done,
recommend that day.
that'd be great.
So again, what we usually have done is you do, let's say there's 4 people. You interview the 4, one by one, the others in the separate
Four of
room. When you're done with the interviews, we ask them to leave the room. You deliberate amongst yourselves. It's a publicly noticed meeting. You do not have to take public comment, that's up to you. Because it's really a board deliberation, but you can deliberate for 10 minutes. Maybe somebody is crystal clear. Maybe you can't agree, but I recommend that day after the interview, you discuss it and you vote.
Gotcha. I have no issue with that. Do we need to vote on that, John?
No.
I have no concern on that. Anybody else on the board have a concern with that?
No.
I just have a question, so just so I'm clear, so moving forward, I don't know if it's the board or John, but, so we're gonna come up with a Saturday, are you gonna give us suggestions on that, John? I mean, are we gonna, like, I think Chris mentioned, are we gonna come up with a deadline with Friday for everyone to come up with our picks? How are we gonna do it?
Please.
I think
should
if
pick a
we
deadline.
leave the subject now, it's gonna be another 2 more months,
Yeah.
and not a lot is gonna move.
I think it'd be good to have a deadline by which you would all give me your top 4 picks maybe.
So today's being Wednesday, let's just say by the close of business Friday, and each board member, if you could get your 4 short list picks to, Mr. Famera, we greatly appreciate it. All right, John, with that, what about the,
So do you, I'm sorry, one more, do you want, so when I call this, once you come up with your list and I call the schedule, do you want me to represent to them a salary range?
I'm pretty sure most of them are gonna ask, we'll definitely have to
We
have.
should have that.
something.
So let me know what you want that to be.
So let's,
I'm not even sure, what is the current salary?
86, something, 80
I think
something.
about
It's
20,
on the budget, no?
it's in the budget.
What is this?
Yeah,
It's about 85, 86.
Something a little bit more.
Could be.
yeah, how's it going with the pay, what, they're doing salary wise?
Separate,
It's 16 something, they're about
It's about
52.
87, 360, and it's at 42 times 40 hours. 52 weeks, it'll be 87 weeks.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
About
So
20.
do you want me to say 70 to
I just,
90?
I would just say, minimum is what the current salary is, and then based on qualifications, because most people are gonna negotiate their package regardless.
So, you know, it's good to give a range. You want to say like
Absolutely.
80 to 100?
Do we have that in the budget?
Just,
Yeah.
Okay.
if we put it in there, what's the worst if you ask for 100 and we say, I mean,
I think it will help weed
Yeah,
out.
like, you know, 100,000 is nowadays, bro.
That's a good range.
that's a new
80 to
50,000.
So 87 is about 42 bucks an hour. About, roughly about almost 42, that's 87.
And if we get a good manager, it'll be worth the money.
Well, and there's lots of ways to do this. What I recommend is you have a 6-month probation.
Yeah.
They don't have a contract. 6 months probation, if they do well, you can even give them a bonus there. I mean, there's lots of ways.
Absolutely.
That's easy, the way you structure these things, where someone says, man, you, let's say you find that candidate, you're blown away, and the person says, oof, I need 115. But you're excited. So what we say is, do 100. If you pass probation, we'll give you a 115. If you know, rock our world. There's ways to do it. That's
That turns
easy.
a lot of people down. If I heard that, I'd be like, hell no. You're paying me right now because in 6 months?
Yeah.
That's, a lot of people stray away from that type of stuff. Everybody's looking for security. And, you know, I think if some people hear that, they'll be like, no, and then our candidate's gonna go from 4 to maybe 1 or 2.
Well,
Florida's
all of
at
these
will.
contracts are at will.
Exactly, that's Florida.
So upon 30 days' notice, anybody that does a little bit of research is gonna know this is a risky gig. I
Absolutely,
mean, let's get real.
sure. So, John, did we cover B and C, scoring and the
So are you
process?
okay with me representing 80 to 100?
I have no problem with that. Anybody on the board?
That's good? Okay, so I will do that, so I'll just kind of vet the people that you identify on or before Friday. We've got the motion on the open forum, publicly noticed meeting on a Saturday, a special meeting.
Yes, sir.
Top 4 candidates.
So if we do it in December, make sure that you check with all the supervisors' schedules, because getting close to the holidays and stuff like that, we gotta make sure that we have
It's
everybody.
gonna be a challenge even for the candidates. We'll give it our best shot. We'll try to.
Going back to the dates, November 23rd is before Thanksgiving, and then you got December 7th and 14th before the Christmas and New Year. So really, if you want to move forward fast, either November 23rd, December 7th, or 14th.
Oh, I was thinking like this, Saturday.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, remember, you have to get public notice out, minimum of 7 days before the meeting, and the way the Clewiston News works, I think they're not fast. I think you gotta give them like 2 or 3 weeks notice to get an ad out.
So forget it.
We're already in December.
And then you go.
That's why every year you vote on all your meetings for the year, because it's a nightmare. We don't have a daily publication here, so.
Well, see what you can get done, John.
Yeah.
And figure out Saturday and let the,
Yeah,
reach
just,
out to the board
I,
members.
you know, urge you all, please check your emails. I will keep you closely apprised via email on everything, and all my progress.
Okay. So B and C is accomplished. Moving on to D, new special district law performance measure requirements.
Yes, so, in, May, I sent you an email, summarizing a new law that only applies to special districts. Some of you probably read in the paper that Governor DeSantis got into a bit of a spat with Disney. Early in the year, Disney controls something called the Reedy Creek. It's a special district. It's a $100+ billion a year district. The manager makes $500,000 a year there. But it's controlled, it's all Disney property. Disney's just taxing itself. It issues bonds. That's why all the roads in Disney are so pretty. It's because they have a tax in their own taxing district. The governor got in a spat with them. By the way, he fired the whole board, and there was a new Disney board in Reedy Creek. But this new law came out. I'm gonna read it to you. It's kind of short and sweet. So by October 1st, 2024, or by the end of the first full fiscal year after its creation, whichever is later, each special district, like us, we're a special district, must establish goals and objectives for each program and activity undertaken by the district, as well as performance measures and standards to determine if the district's goals and objectives are being achieved. By December 1st of each year thereafter, each special district must publish an annual report on the district's website describing, number one, the goals and objectives achieved by the district, as well as the performance measures and standards used by the district to make this determination, and two, any goals or objectives the district failed to achieve. So there's a couple of thousand special districts in Florida. There's fire districts, there's neighborhood improvement districts, and there's been a lack of, by many legislative leaders believe there's too many, and there's a lack of accountability. There's fire districts in Lee and Collier County. All your fire services are by fire taxing districts. The board of directors are made up of the firemen. So they vote on their own pay, benefits. It's pretty good. And anyway, so that's why this was passed. So nothing happened when I sent out the email. So again, I did a non-legal thing. I took a shot at drafting something for you to look at. I'm going to pass it out now. And hopefully we get a manager that can make it look prettier than I did, but I'm going to pass it. So first, here's a copy of the law. Just very short and sweet. And then
Maybe step forward.
oh, here. And then I took a crack at. So the way I look at it is, remember what I always say, our top three programs.
Sure.
Roads, drainage, recreation. So I thought we could develop performance measures around those three programs. So when you do performance measures, you have to have criteria to judge them. So I thought, miles of road improved or filled, miles of canals cleaned and maintained, recreation programs that were operated by, soccer program, a baseball program, basketball program, creating those programs and maintaining them are achievements. And every year, it's an achievement. Same thing with the roads, and so I took a crack at it. I've never seen one of these. This is new. So I went online and I found a few districts that have published. And anyway, so I just put this together. So just take a look at it.
And in reference to this meeting, John, you need us to do what? Are you just giving us information, or you need us to work on something?
We gotta have a plan. We have to have something. I know you're getting this, you got it for the first time with the agenda package, but we need to act on it before the end of the year.
December 1st.
So by the next meeting, we need to come up with a criteria plan and our goals.
Yeah, I took a crack, it's right here. I mean, technically, I don't think anyone's gonna get in trouble for the first year by being, 14 or 20 days late. I think as long as you get it in by the calendar year, nobody's gonna slap your hand, but we gotta get it done. And again, they have to be performance measures that are, measurable.
So in reference to the three disciplines that we service, I guess, Mr. Dobbs, you can look that over as well, see what you think some of our criteria and goals, see if they align with what we should be doing.
Okay.
Any questions from the board, from Mr. Camaro? Yeah, go ahead.
So I think what, and I don't know how we would do this, John, but I think what I would like to see more is more numbers and less yes, nos. Because if we're setting goals, it's kind of at our discretion, whether it's a yes or a no.
Yeah, look at the last three, the little slots, those are where you put the numbers, but yeah.
So I mean, even the road
I put a
surfacing,
little both.
what's the target? Right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's what,
I'm out of my zone right now, so.
Yeah.
we would ask Mr. Dobbs, what is, you know, what is practical, what is something, what are some goals, what's measurable, what's achievable, and then we can go from there, we can measure it out.
The only thing I will say that y'all should add in there is that to put in miles of ditches maintained. Because as far as miles only has roads, canals, and the recreational programs, but ditches is something that, so, you know, this is like an accountability thing. I know it's kind of like gonna be uneasy for some people, but I mean, this is gonna be a really good thing. So then every year, if somebody says, at the end of the year, what did y'all achieve? Not yes or no.
Yeah, and let me make with all due respect, this is our first year. You can change it next year.
Yeah.
Let's not make a Cadillac, because it may fall apart. Let's just do a Chevy this year. We can do a Cadillac next year. We really gotta get this done. If we get too lost in the weeds, we'll have nothing.
Yeah, but if you could just add miles of ditches, that's just the only thing that I see that I'd like to see put on it.
I'm sorry, what do you want me to add?
Just miles of ditches.
Oh, that's
Or
what's
swell.
on there.
Canals, you got canals.
Canals. Ditches.
I think
canals.
No, he's talking about
Well,
swells.
because we gotta know, because we got our
Swells
main,
next to the road.
yeah, we have our main feeder canals, and then we have our swells, that's two totally different
Two
deals.
different animals.
Yeah, and it's better for us to, even though it's almost kind of nitpicking, but it's something that we could do now. And then by the time that we come to reevaluate this, we already have something that, to look at.
So miles of
swells.
Swells and ditches.
Yeah.
Well, a ditch, what's the
Different than a
difference
canal.
between a ditch and a
I'll
canal?
let Mr. Dobbs tell you afterwards.
What's the difference?
Afterwards, not the.
Canals are the ones that go from the west side to the east side that feed the pump station. The ditches or the swells, ditches or swells, whatever you want to call it, are on each side of the road. So you're gonna have a lot more
Feeding the canal.
miles of ditches and swells versus canals.
Yeah, the canal's not gonna cross the front of your yard.
So I'm gonna have miles of canals and then miles of ditches
Slash.
swales.
Yes.
Can I say something?
Go right ahead.
John, the review that we are supposed to do for the managers, for the district manager, if you look at the original copy that you provided us, well, you provided me in 2020, this looks identical to the manager review score sheet that I guess the state's now asking us to use. Why won't we use the verbiage on there? Because on that report, it asks very crucial questions, and it asks for us to give it like a percentage grade. This is basically what the state's asking the board to grade itself, correct? Like if we as the board say we're gonna complete 10 miles this year, and we only complete 5, that's 50% of what we agreed to complete. It's just like the manager's report that we're supposed to do every October.
Doesn't get done every October?
I've done it.
When you say manager's report,
The review, it's like 8 or 10 pages that you presented, I asked you for in
I drafted
2020.
Yeah.
It looks just like this. Probably some wording is not there, but for the questions and a lot of it, it breaks it down in more detail, like, what are some of the projects that haven't been started that were told to be started by the board? The overall performance that you think is being done throughout the district. Everything refers to the district, not as the manager. And this is the same thing. Miles of road resurfaced. We as the board have to determine that percentage, and then we're giving our grade based off of what our manager's performing. So this is basically an overall day-to-day review of what we put forth as the board and our manager executing at the end of the year. It's the same thing.
You could say that.
We're just presenting this to the state. So why we don't use the one that we already have that's more
I'll take a look
informed?
at it. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't recall in detail what's in there. I will email it to you, but please, 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 look at your emails and respond to me via email.
So you need something by we need to get this out by the beginning of the year, before the beginning of the year.
Before, by the end of the year.
So by next
Really,
meeting,
yeah,
we should have something in concrete, right?
really,
Okay.
really need to get it done. Yes.
All right, any questions before we move on? No questions from the board, moving on to 4E. Mr. Camaro, board member requirement for ethics / sunshine law / public record training.
Yeah, so this is a law that passed last year. I sent you all a summary of it, and I've sent you reminder emails over the course of the year. You must, and again, this law has applied to all elected officials except for special districts.
Right now.
Now it applies to special district board members.
Yes, sir.
You have to do 4 hours of ethics, public records, and sunshine law. It's a 4-hour class. I think Becky has sent you links, there's webinars, that's the way to do it. On your own time, many of them are free. If there's a cost, of course, the district will reimburse you. This is your part of your duties as a board member, but I recommend, based on your schedules, that you sign up for one of these webinars. There's been more and more popping up. I do one every year for the Treasure Coast League of Cities, about 60 elected officials in March. We do it over at Indian River College. That's a hike for you guys. The easiest thing is just to find an online. The Florida League of Cities has one. The Florida Association of Special Districts puts one on. Just a reminder, please don't forget, because if you do, you will get nabbed.
Question, John, is this a specific for the water district, or that's going to all the state?
It's the same
Everybody.
for all elected officials. They just go over, usually it's taught by a lawyer, it doesn't have to be. They go over the latest cases in public records, ethics, and sunshine.
It was, the link that she gave us, sent us this year was firm out of West Palm, as a matter of fact. Firm out of West Palm. All right. Any questions with that, board? No questions with that. Moving on to, so Ms. Fernandez has this on the, see if we can get it approved. So she's asking, we've already voted and approved to do, Hunting Club from 8:33 to Hacienda. She's asking on this, that we vote and see if we can put money, if we have money, Mr. Boyd, while the contractor is mobilized, if we could do Horse Club from 8:33 to Hacienda. Was there some type of funding, Kenya, do you know that she see there was some money in the books or something?
Yes, she was talking about the dump truck, if I remember correctly, some one of the equipment. It's on.
The truck not being purchased, or I'm
No,
lost?
I think we have a nice, amount on there. So
For,
I
to
want
purchase a dump truck?
Purchase, yes, so we
So-
should be able to allocate some of that money
So it-
for Horse Club.
So her thinking was not to move forward with the purchasing of a dump truck, not purchasing a dump truck and moving forward with resurfacing?
Not immediately, so we can, since they're already gonna be here doing Hunting Club, might as well take advantage and do a Horse Club while they're out here already.
Mr. Boyd, do you recall that, capital item for our budget?
We got under resurfacing paved roads, $100,000.
That's what, bless you, that's what we're gonna use, that's what we're gonna use to resurface 1 mile of road, but they're asking for another mile of road. My question is, in the budget for capital equipment, what do we have underneath there?
There is, the dump truck, we let 220,000, it's not gonna be that much, from what I understand. And if you put it off, then that can be moved down to a different capital outlay.
So the question for the board is, do we move to do this another mile of resurfacing and foregoing purchasing a dump truck for 2024, 2025?
I'm in agreement. One thing that we gotta remember is that we have, I think it's 3 or 4 properties that we gotta get rid of. And if it's 4, and if we could get 50 grand, that's 200,000.
Sure.
We need to move on that, because we already voted on it. We should already have that moving.
I think we're waiting for Mr. Tamara, hopefully he'll speak on that to this evening as well.
To sell the land that we own.
Yeah, the ones that they just strode all around, that they don't serve no purpose to us.
Yeah, I keep asking, somebody give me a legal description of the lands and I can do it, but I don't know where they are.
Oh, we had the list.
I think you were given the addresses already.
Yeah,
And the
Yeah,
meeting
an address,
Yeah, 'cause
you know, so I need a legal description.
yeah.
So get with the office, get that legal description, so we can definitely jump on this.
Okay.
Any discussions on the resurfacing, using, allocating funds instead of purchasing the dump truck, using those funds, to resurface Horse Club from Hacienda to 833? And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Boyd, if we do allocate those funds, we will probably have extra money over to put back into the general fund because the cost of the dump truck's a lot more expensive than 100,000.
Right. So you're gonna move 100 to the 100 that's already there, 200.
Yeah, so that most likely would be, most likely that would be the case.
Yeah. And then once we get rid of the properties, we can always put that back towards the dump truck and to where there's still something moving with the dump truck if we need it.
Any questions about that from any of the board members?
Yeah, I was under the impression that it was an immediate thing that we needed to dump truck. I wish she was here to question her about that. That she was very urgent that the dump truck was needing to be replaced, because it is a tool that is used all the time. And now I'm being told that it can be pushed off. So if the dump truck we have now magically breaks or something happened to it,
You're right.
Well, there's other possibilities, like dump truck
Lease.
to be financed over 3 years.
Okay. There's always tons of, you can lease, you can
Okay.
rent.
well,
We
we
rent
were
pumps.
sticking to the budget. That's what we were told this go around. So
Sure.
now
But
we're
things
moving
happen.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Against it? You all right? Any other questions?
No, that was my only question.
Any other questions from the board before we put a motion? We have a motion to resurface Horse Club from Hacienda to 833, this fiscal year.
I make a motion.
We have a motion by our board member, Mr. Self. Do we have a second?
Aye.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. All right, and then last on the agenda is voting process and landowner / qualified electors
That's the one
position.
we moved to number 1, we moved that to
No,
4A.
No, mine.
Oh, that's you.
No, that's not, no, we didn't move that one.
Yeah. Yeah, so, throughout the years, we've been having tons of issues with the elections and stuff, and as we all know, we have 3 landowners and 2 general. And I've spoken about this issue a few times with John over the last couple of years. And I think that the most responsible thing that we could do to secure fair elections and to get away from all this headache, all the fake names and all the qualifying period problems is to go from the 3 landowners to get them swapped over to general. 1 person, 1 vote, popular vote. And the reason why I say that is that all of our landowner elections have been compromised for over 20 years. And that's a big issue. And we never had a general election have an issue. So whenever you go to general elections, we had 1,000-something voters come out this year to vote for a presidential election. Whenever the landowners came out, what do we have, 50, 60? It's a small amount. And there's pros and cons to it. And I know one of the things that's going to be brought up is people that are not registered to vote in general, but they are landowners. One of the things that happens with that too is that if you don't pay your taxes, you don't vote. For you to vote in general, you just got to register to vote. And plus, it's going to be, I think it'd be more productive for people to come out and vote during our general elections and have a better turnout. And then, down the road, we know that if we do get a lot of people coming in and buying tons of property, you can have 5 people come into this community and outvote 100 people. And it all comes down to financial things. If I had enough money to buy 100 pieces of land, and there's 90 people here, 1 person is going to outvote everybody, a whole entire community, and that's not productive for us long term for the ones that we live here. And know, and I think that that's gonna be the best way going forward. If we ever think about going independent, somewhere down the road, we're gonna end up being like that anyways. One person, one vote. You wanna get elected, work your ass off. Go out there and get your votes. Don't cater to a couple people that got a lot of land.
Appreciate it. Anybody up for discussion? So my discussion with that is, I'm gonna tell you why I disagree, and there are pros and cons to both, as you said. So what could happen in that scenario that you bring up, you can have 5 people that are renters in Montura and make decisions on everything that happens within Montura. And I don't think that's what, again, the landowners are agreeing to with the ones that have voted me in. They want to keep their house. As a matter of fact, most people have asked me if you could go back to the way it was landowners that actually ran the board, not popular vote. They went to get it approved to put 2 seats in, but most of them have landowners, so, I mean,
Yeah, so I want to speak on that. You know, I'm born and raised here.
Sure.
Been here my whole life. I strayed away from the landowner election because those 3 big landowners, they said that they'll make sure I never sit up here. So this is the problem. Because of personal issues, I had to go through general. There shouldn't be no reason why I should fear going through a landowner election. So see, and then this is what ends up happening, you know. It's not fair for everybody to come out and vote for somebody, then you have 2 or 3 people with a lot of money come out and vote you out because of personal issues. And that's something and that's why I did general. I would have loved to run landowner, but the problem is whenever there's 3 of them that they said, we're gonna make sure you never send in a landowner, I had to jump to this. And it won't just happen to me, it happened to anybody. One person, one vote, that you have to go out and you're gonna have to win, you know, your community.
So why don't you do this? Why don't we say we work for the people, let the landowners speak, let Montura speak. Let's see what Montura has to say.
If I can, a lot of landowners here that do live here in Montura, they just want someone who sits up here who's gonna fight their fight and stand with them when it comes to taxes, their animals, keeping the rural environment rural. I think the election that happened with, Cortez, was very, very productive in my eyes. A lot of people know Santana, who sat up here for a couple of years, but I think they wanted a change and they voted upon that. And those were a lot of landowners that came out.
How many?
100 and something, from what I was told. Because he only won 50 something.
It was 150, I don't know how many total, but he got 100.
So you gotta remember, you're not looking at the acres, because if I own 100 acres, I'm 1 vote.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta take into account. That's how many people already came out of count. So if you used to really look so if you had 2 candidates, you might have 3 people running for one guy, they might have 100 votes. And you're gonna have 100 come out for this 100 people.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think what we have to understand is, it's not always gonna go the way that I feel, you feel, the other feels. As we said, we live in a community. Let's put it out to the community. Let's put out mailers to everybody. Let them speak for us. Because I know a lot of people that disagree because of the change that Montura's going. They're like, because some people have 2 properties, right? This is not their primary. This is not their homestead. They have a second home. But they also say, well, Mr. Mata, I might have a family of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say the dad doesn't care for Mr. Mata, but the mom, the daughter, the son, the other ones do. Those are 4 votes coming my way and 1 vote not going my way.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? So again, I just say we let the people. We say we represent the people. Let Montura speak.
Yeah, and this is something I brought up with the community in 2018. We had one of the biggest turnouts to come out in 2018. Whenever they had the fake names, people that sold property, they was given all that property. Whenever we told the people, look, this is what we found, this is nonsense, you know what the majority of the community said? That's why we don't vote. So you know what happened? We went from a huge turnout to next to nobody, because they don't trust the process. And we know till today that the process is still messed up. We need to put this in the hands of the
But I-
supervisor of elections, this is just, excuse me,
Go ahead.
supervisor of elections, and let them deal with them. And I think that, and I know a lot of people, I've spoken with people about this, I mean, for years. A lot of people agree that some of them don't because they're like, I live in the Keys, I got a home, they actually came and voted here, recently. But you know what, they say, if it's for the better good and it's gonna stop all that nonsense, then you know what, it's what's good for the community, not what's good for what we think. Cause at one time, this board used to be run by the fire department. Why? Because then you know the big landowners, there's a good old boys club, and you know what? We had to fight so hard to get them guys off. And we got them off, but it was hard, and it took many years before we got it done. But the thing is that a community shouldn't have to struggle that hard, to get who the majority wants in there.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Whatever you wanna get.
Let the speaker, but then, if I'm not mistaken, John, this is a water control district ran by landowners, what I've read, right? What I've read is ran by landowners. So now we're trying to change the policy, and I'm for it as well. I'm just saying, let's say that we say we are, we're for the people, let the people speak on it.
Yeah. Do you have a fear of big developers coming in here, or just no? It's
So
just-
I'll speak on that, so.
Yeah, so if you got
I think-
some big developers coming in, they buy, each one 20, now you got 100 parcels owned by 4 people. Do you see how that could be used to put who they want up here to guide?
But you can do it the same way. You can do it the same way if you have a household of 10 people that's happening now in our county. We have sometimes 2 and 3 families living in one house. That's happening right now. I know it's happening. I see it
But the
happening.
thing is, each one of them, whenever they go and vote, they have a choice to do who they want.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, whenever one landowner comes in and does 10, that 10 is going to specifically to one person. And, but it'll be good to ask the community.
Absolutely.
we can
That's
do
what I'm
that.
saying. I said let the community.
And we're gonna make sure that we're gonna be non-biased, and we're gonna bring to them the issues, the true issues that we had from 2018, what we had now recently.
But you see, so speaking of the issue, so John, if I'm not mistaken, this special district here is supposed to have proxy voting. We're the only special district that doesn't have proxy voting.
You know why they are?
But I'm saying, but you see how we have already, every other special district has proxy voting, but this one doesn't.
You know why?
But I'm just saying, but what I'm saying is, but here's what I'm saying is, we can continue to tweak it. My thing is, at the end of the day, I don't really care. I say we work for the community, let the community speak. Hold on a second. But we have to I say let the community speak. Whatever they say, I'm for.
Yeah, so what happened with the proxy voting is that, government has a very, bad habit of doing bad stuff with privileges. So the things that when the proxy voting was here, Bruno Naranjo was one of the ones that, he pulled that crap in 2017 here.
That's
So
what
did
you
he
had
do?
said. That's what you had said,
He
yes,
did,
sir.
no, I know. He took the paper, he started, I'm gonna vote for this because they gave me the right and this, and that. That's the reason why this stuff got taken out, because you get one person to go around and start, it's basically signature harvesting, and then that one person comes with a whole book and said, they gave me the right to vote for them, here you go. So the community, what? They didn't,
But I'm saying,
they
what
get
you're
kicked
saying,
in the butt.
what you're saying is, but here's what I'm saying is, you're making a motion, which I'm fine with it. I say, let the community speak on behalf of, you say we represent the community, let the community speak for us and say, hey, this is what we want, or this is not what we want. But at the same time, is it possible, and I think you have to go through, legislation and everything to make that happen.
So,
Mr. Moreno.
the proxy voting is allowed in the law for any special district, but in Central County, but this was done, I would say like 30 years ago. They disallowed it, which they're allowed in the charter. Central County is a charter, and then you have the enabling legislation that created it.
Sure.
And I can tell you, every water control district has this debate. I used to live in the Delray Beach area. We're in the Lake Worth Drainage District. There was a huge battle like 9 years ago because it was 1 acre, 1 vote, and there was a handful of farmers in western Palm Beach County that owned a couple hundred acres here, and they controlled the board. Paid big dollars on our tax bills. And ultimately, it was changed to residents. But and that's a good thing. The supervisor elections generally does a good job. The trade-off is, and again, if I were selfish, I would say, please give it to the supervisor elections. don't do elections well. We're not trained in
Yeah.
it, we don't do it well. We have someone who does that for a living. The trade-off is if I lived here, I don't want people who don't own property, who don't pay taxes, voting on, I don't know how many people here are owners, I would guess most, right? That's the trade-off. So there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It is a tough question, and it's not right or wrong, it's a trade-off. You give up, like, that's
Yeah.
life, you give
I
up.
get, because the thing is, there's a lot of people that they own land here, but they don't live here, and then they rent it, and then that's what pays taxes and stuff, and then people, I know people, they lived here their whole life, even longer than what I have, they haven't owned one property in their life, but they've been here just as long or longer than most of the other people have been, so they're community members, and the thing is that they still get to vote on people locally around, that still makes decisions for us, you know, so, you know, and that's, this problem has always been an issue, and it's like the absentee ballots. There's no 298 that allows absentee ballots, but they went on for God knows for how long, until 2018, and then we questioned it. Everybody says, no, we could do it, you know what, you can't. So then this is what becomes the issue. We've had so many problems with this landowner elections, that it's like something's gotta be done, because I mean, 2 meetings ago, I said nobody in here should be touching this stuff because there's gonna be an issue. We had an issue. So it's like, you know, and me as a citizen, because before I got up here, I brought this issue up, this has been the biggest slap in the face of this community for over 20 years. And now they're worried about if this person, it's like, no. That process has slapped this community in the face for over 20 years. And it's not gonna get fixed, I can tell you that right now. Because I spoke about it and nothing.
We can't draft a policy and a procedure of how the landowner elections should be held and what time is the qualifying period, or adopt what the supervisor of election has for us as the general and apply it to the landowner.
So, we got into this in 2018. So the supervisor election has a body of law. It's been around for 80 years, and it deals with all, we have an election code in Florida. That we do every other year, you adopt a resolution that says, we're gonna bring in an independent CPA to count it. Nobody touches the ballots, only this person that we hire once every 2 years. So there's no fingerprints of anybody who works with or for Central County. So we establish all those protocols, but Chris is right, the exception has been smooth running elections, unfortunately. And I don't know how long I've been here, maybe 9 years?
Since 2015, 16.
9 years, yeah, I think 9 years. And we've never had a good turnout, never.
No.
It's been 150-ish, give or take, on good years. 1 year is really low. You know, and I have personally called the Hendry County Supervisor of Elections.
Well, we have a new one now.
Asked her, can you please come and help us run our elections? She made it clear she doesn't want to be within 1,000 yards of a Central County election because there's a reputation here. And she did not want to have anything to do with this, was not interested in discussing the subject. You had directed me years ago, hey, see if she'll run it for us. And she was like,
The general, she said she would, but the other ones, so like for general, if it all went general,
oh, because general, by law, she has to. It's not her choice.
and it's easy because all you, the same thing like me and Daniel, we get put on a ballot, you get to choose, you know, you get to go for president, you know, all that stuff, all your amendments, and you know how
We can't have the board here every time there's a landowner seat, there be a committee, that there has to be multiple people that sit there like how they do supervisor election to finalize the vote.
we shouldn't have to even go there, right? It's bad that we gotta.
So, and you're talking about like, it's called a canvassing.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you can create all this stuff, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's, you
So,
know,
yeah, because you remember, so the state did an observation on the landowner meetings, and they said everything was great. But you know what, truthfully, they were still taking an absentee ballot, so you know what, they failed to do their job.
I heard about this.
Yeah.
24 years ago, the state of Florida sent in observers to to the Central County election, and I guess because someone had complained, they didn't just show up. But this was like decades ago, I heard the story, and that they filed a report and said everything was hunky-dory, even though they were doing mail-in ballots, which were.
This process has been compromised for a long time. You know, my motion, I'm still gonna put it
Yeah,
through.
I put it, so,
Yeah.
do we have a motion to voting process, landowner?
Yeah.
Qualified elected position?
Make the three landowners, general.
Gotcha.
One person, one vote.
So making the 3 landowners, general, do we have a motion on the floor?
Oh, I second it.
Yeah. We have first, you have first, or you have second? So you have a motion, you have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Aye. Passes 4-1.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, there's, you and I, the district engineer, had talked about this, and I forgot to mention it. There is a request for proposals, an RFP.
Sure.
For engineering consulting services for our stormwater system improvements project. I think it's important that you act on this, issue this RFP today. And if I may ask you, Mr. Engineer, to tell the board why this is related to why it's.
Well, it's related to the grant, the vulnerability assessment. This is the grant that Central County had. This isn't the one through Hendry County.
Yeah, this is the $4 million.
This is the $4 million. So, in order to get started on that, we gotta have an engineer to do the plans and, you know, all that kind of stuff, so, you know, and I didn't bring copies of it.
These grants, so we got $4 million, but it's not in our pocket.
Sure.
They're gonna be giving us allotments. To give us money, the state wants to see us make progress, like move forward with projects, then the money starts coming. So getting an engineer to actually design and permit the stormwater improvement project is a big step forward. And like all grants, there's deadlines, there's timeframes, you gotta act. So the engineer drafted a scope of work. I wrapped around the solicitation for an RFP. So if it's okay with the board, I'd like you to, I'll pass this around. I only have one copy.
What if I can speak, Chair?
Sure.
What is it you need from us a vote to approve it?
Why don't you explain what the project is?
So the project, it comes from the vulnerability assessment that was done in 2022, where we were adding a 13th pump.
Sure.
You know, elevating the road, you know, improving some canals and that type of stuff. So,
Yeah, and the culvert, those culvert connections and
Yeah,
the project
big
many of
culverts.
them.
yeah. So that's, you know, like I said, I apologize. It's taken me a while to get up to speed and, you know, and try to figure out the difference between the Hendry County, you know, and then this one. So got my hands around it. You know, I talked to John. I said, you know, hey, we need an RFP for us to hire an engineer, you know, to get this done because, you know, I would, so as this engineer does his work, I would be reviewing the work and, you know, assisting with getting the permits and all this kind of stuff, but he would be the one that would be doing it. So, but I would be reviewing on your behalf, because I'm your engineer.
Yeah, because of the complexities involved with the $4 million grant, we hired Ovid Solutions. They are basically all state grant people that left and formed this company, so they're very good, but they said, you gotta get the ball rolling. It's time. The Hendry County one, unfortunately, we don't control. They're supposed to be doing a solicitation too, right? But unfortunately, we have no control. That's a mess.
So
This one, we control.
on this RFP vulnerability assessment, I'm pretty sure after it's all said and done, there's gonna be a fee, because no engineer's gonna do a vulnerability assessment for free. Do you have roughly what we're talking about? And then the second question is, will we be reimbursed through the grant for the vulnerability assessment? Or is this straight coming out of pocket?
Well, the vulnerability assessment has been done, so I don't know if that was paid for by you and you're gonna be I don't know that level of detail.
Okay.
So,
can answer
I will
that.
find out.
I think, I'll answer that in a moment, but I think the important question he asked is, do you have a ballpark figure or a range of what these engineering services, design services will cost?
I don't off the top of my head, I mean, you know, it's gonna be.
More than 100,000
Oh,
or
yeah.
less?
Yeah.
It's a big number. I mean,
There's a lot of surveying to be done, you know, all of that's gonna fall under the engineering scope of services. And it'll be broken out, you know, engineering, testing, you know, geotechnical, you know, whatever needs to be done.
Like I said,
so to answer your question, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
yes, they will, because we are an economically depressed area, if we get the bids in and we get a contract and we show them, they will actually front some of the money. Some of it will be reimbursed, but they will front some of it as well, which is, you know, amazing. So all of
But we
this
have to
is
have something to give them, we don't have anything yet.
Sure.
So-
understood. Any questions from the board?
I wanted to ask something about like the deal with Ovid, because I know that there's been a couple culverts that's already been put in. Do we know how long it takes for us to be reimbursed? Because I know that's one thing that we've been working off of the budget, but if we just start throwing out money and it takes 8 months to get the money back, we gotta make sure that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot or end up going negative. And I don't know if anybody.
I'll find out if that's been submitted to Open for
Yeah,
reimbursement.
I can tell you, before our engineer came on, we had many conversations with Ovid over the fact that we have limited resources and we can't float large, like several $100,000s at a time. We don't have the ability to float it, so they said that the state is pretty good. Now, can I give you, you know, they reimburse you in, 10 weeks? I don't know, but we were told that they can work with our financial limitations.
Yeah, I was hoping Becky would have been here to answer that. That's one of my questions today, but we kind of just. Okay.
So, anybody else have a question on the RFP? We have a motion on the floor to approve this. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Self. We have a second.
Aye.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Moving on, staff reports, so district manager's not in, so we'll have to pass on that. Engineer's report?
So I reviewed and approved, and this goes back to September. So it sounds like a lot, but it's over 3 months. 19 electric permits. We have a site visit for the AGI for the permit scheduled for November the 19th. That had to be put off twice. I have requested an extension for the permit because we're bumping up against district timelines. So I'm going to request that get extended. I attended a meeting, there were some flooding issues down here, with the landowner to the west, the east.
Carney? The cattle guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, Carney?
Yeah, they're the one that
We
they.
found that he was discharging onto district lands. Is that the one you're talking about?
well, it's,
About 300 acres?
He's talking about the one on Flagler.
yeah, the
He's
one,
talking about the one on
That's different.
Flagler.
Carney's the one that they butted up to us within the sheet flow of that. That's a different.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
He's talking about the one on
anyway,
Flagler.
I attended that meeting with Henry County and the Water Management District. They had called it together because of the flooding and how they could handle it better. We came up with a plan. I'm still working with Bennett and Associates to install staff gauges. I see from her report that some of them have been installed already. I don't know which ones, but, we're working on that to get all those installed at the pump stations. I do have, I said, still working on prices. I do have prices for the auto starts and the floats and installation. Now, I was talking to Mr. Famera before the meeting, and, he asked me if I had 3 quotes. These are very hard to find, people that do this and the auto starts themselves. So I've got, I've got a couple of things here, but total for the 12 pumps that are out there, you're looking at, roughly $49,015 to have those try to get more quotes, but we had a hard time getting any, Diana to help me with that.
Are they requiring the final tier fours?
These are just auto starts, so we're not changing pumps or anything.
Yeah.
These hook to, it's kind of a, you know, works with a lot of different pumps.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it'll start the pump, basically what you do is you just keep the clutch engaged, start the pump, and, you know, these axial flow pumps, they'll run, you know, very slow, not necessarily pushing any water out, but then when it speeds up and ramps up, then the water starts flowing, so. I've used these before, I've installed these before, and when I was at U.S. Sugar, we did quite a few.
Yeah, Thompson and Nixon.
Yeah. So, we'll have this on the next agenda.
All right, anything else?
So, I'm sorry, that was a flood grant, so the meeting before was with Hendry County and the flood grant, we've been having meetings, I think it's every 2 weeks, with the Hendry County. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've called Shane Parker, emailed Shane Parker, every time he sees me, I gotta get with you.
Sure.
You know, we are at their mercy. You know, we have no control over that, and that's about that grant. So we have no control over that. We're totally waiting on Hendry County to engage and.
So you're waiting for a response from the county engineer?
Yes. And he knows I'm waiting for him, so every time he sees me, he's like, I gotta get with you, so.
Okay.
And I've had, and other people have told me, I'm gonna tell Shane to call you, and I still haven't got a call yet, so.
How long?
And it's been 2 months.
Okay.
Easy.
Huh?
I said easy.
Yeah. Well, you know, John knows how easy I am to get a hold of.
Okay.
If I don't answer my phone, I call you back, right? Yeah. So,
All right.
that's it.
Any questions for the engineer and his report?
As far as staff gauges, are they doing NGVD or NAVD?
NAB.
NAVD.
Any other questions? Thank you for your report, Mr. Dawes. District Treasurer?
Hey, this is pretty simple this month, because this is the first month of the year. We've got no tax revenue in, coming in November. So you can see that, on page 1 there, it shows our assessment. It shows the amount of money we dispersed. Required to see that, $515,000. If you look at page 2, there's nothing on there because there was no tax revenue brought in at all. So really, if you go to page 6, you can do that quick because basically that shows the amount of money that was spent just during this 1 month. We spent $312,271, which is a little bit over budget, about 5.6% over budget. But that's just 1 month, and it's not necessarily representative of how it's going to spread out. The good news is, this report isn't in here because this was from last month. But last month was the total year end. And we, even though we bought the roller and paid for the roller, we still made non-audited results because we made a profit of $408,000 last year. So we're be able to add to our fund balance, which we desperately needed. So that's good. We underspent the budget by about $86,000. So, unless y'all have other questions, that's the good news for last year, and this year is too early to really take much out of.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, I got a question.
Okay.
When I was reviewing the payroll for the employees, and I seen that, because Rebecca, she's on salary, right?
Yeah.
and I seen that she had 13.75 hours of overtime twice. Yeah, it was on there twice. And I was wondering what was that about. It's on page 19 and 20.
Right. Nineteen,
Hmm?
19, oh,
Contract. And she's not supposed to accumulate no overtime, no comp time, nothing like that?
I'll have to follow up on that. I'm not involved in the payroll process.
Oh, yeah, if you got,
Marie was notified about that, because when we send in the, when she sends in the hours, I'm the one that actually goes and picks it up, and when she received the pay stub, she did realize, and immediately she did come Marie, so that was, yes. So Marie is aware of it, you could ask her, but that was fixed.
Solid.
oh, yeah.
She's solid. She took over Hermina's spot. She's solid.
Yeah, remember this time about the comp time, she was asking if she gets comp time and stuff, we said no, her salary, and going all these other purposes, so now it doesn't work like that.
You have anything else, Mr. Boyd, for us?
I do. Mr. Boyd, miscellaneous, line items, like a decal for the new vehicle, or replace the old decal. Do we have that in the line item for that, any budget, any for that?
Where are you talking? What page?
No, I'm asking you, do we have any budget, any, X amount of dollars for decals on the new vehicles and replace the damage of the old ones? Where do we,
For decals?
yes, ma'am?
I don't think we don't finance to that small. I mean, we don't budget to that small.
So where do we get our money out of this budget to pay for that?
Well, I mean, there's money for, we've got regular, I don't know if that'd be repairs, equipment, vehicles,
Well, for sure, it'll be, if it's broken, but
Yeah,
the
because
actual
we did
wear and
vote on
tear.
revamping, the logo and everything.
Plus,
And
a
it
new
should have been
vehicle.
an item because
Correct.
we haven't picked the logo yet. And if we do go with revamping, it's gonna cost some money to get everything changed.
You look out in the parking lot, there's all new logos.
Oh, they are?
New truck, that's what I thought you were asking.
No,
I
it's the
noticed.
same old logo.
Yeah,
No, it's the same logo, but they're new.
Oh, they're new?
No, that's not what you're talking about.
no.
Oh.
We
Different.
wanted to change
Go away from
this.
this
Yeah.
to a different logo.
We need to fix this place first.
That's what he's talking about.
Then we get off track, we'll get a new logo. But,
Yeah, that add up, I mean, few $100,
Yeah.
or thousands of dollars with the many equipment that we have on that regard, so.
I don't know if we got a separate budget item for that. I'm sure we didn't.
yeah.
Is it come, what will it come out, what line item will that come out of? Equipment,
You said repair.
repair?
Repairs, I mean, that's an account that's used for stuff you do to the vehicle. I'm assuming that's where the logos will go.
Just check into that, Mr. Boyd, if you would. Any other questions for the
I just got one more thing I wanna add to the board. If y'all look on page 23, I don't know if anybody's been, keeping tabs on the overtime and the total that it's up to right now. It's already at 94,672 on overtime. I just think that's something that the board has to keep their eye on, but this is gonna be an issue somewhere down the line. That's a lot of money in overtime. Every month's been 400, 600, 500, and, let's, keep our eyes on that.
I have a question.
We got, what I'm showing him, the number 10 is overtime wages, 18,800. What number did you say?
It says total 94,672.
Where is that coming from?
That makes it overtime. These are hours. Total. Yeah, it says earnings. If you go all the way to total, go all the way to the right.
Page number.
23.
44 handwritten.
Oh, yeah. Let me see, that's in 23 all the way at the bottom.
That's why.
That's what confused me. I'm trying to find where
It's all the way
you're
at the bottom, it's 21.
Well, my question is for John. I was under the impression that the overtime is going to be getting reimbursed through the grant. How long has, from the first time to now, them being reimbursed?
I just asked that question.
He doesn't have that answer.
Okay, the payroll records, you're looking at, are calendar year, because that's how you report wages.
Was
You're
94?
talking about 11 months, not one.
John Boy,
Yes.
you have not received no payment as a reimbursement pertaining the grant. And the 94, almost 100,000 in overtime, that's just for this year as of today?
Okay. Where's the 94,000? It says 43.
44 handwritten.
The overtime for October is 19,000 total.
Right. 19,000.
Now for wages on October is 94,000, that's regular hours and your overtime hours together. So it's $19,000 in overtime for October only.
Right, that's what I said before.
But just with that being
One at a
said,
time.
but with that just being said, we haven't received a reimbursement from any of what was spent on the grant. That money that's supposed to be
I
reimbursement.
think what he's talking about is the $4 million
No,
grant.
no.
So,
We're,
if you.
So we're just going
I don't
through
know what they're doing, that's not my, but you have to create a
separate,
separate
that's,
billing code.
yeah.
Right, there's no separate billing code in the budget, then how on earth can they track it?
And that's, this is just boggling to me. I'm thinking this whole time that management and John Boy had that separated. Because now when we go to the grant, how do we justify that that was overtime that needs to be reimbursed from the grant? They won't reimburse it.
There should, employees should have a separate, there should be a separate budget item and a separate billing code for time that's allocated to a grant project.
And then you basically
You
rebuild
build
the grant.
it, yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the thing that I was saying is, how are we gonna keep track? Because if we just start spending money and we don't get nothing back, we don't know where we're at, what we're spending, and then by the time we figure it out, like I said, we're gonna shoot ourselves in the foot.
Well, typically around this time anyways of year, we do have a lot of overtime. But for it to be at this and then to be under the impression we were going to be getting this reimbursed through the grant, okay, fair. But if we haven't, one, received any reimbursement after, let's say, a 6-month period, I don't think the overtime for the repayment should continue. And then separate on that, there was no broken item in the overall budget. So how would we present that back to the grant saying, hey, this needs to be reimbursed? Because they're not gonna pay for what work wasn't done that pertains to the grant. They're only going to pay back what was done for the grant. So if it was Central County work being done, not grant work, they're not paying it back. And now at this current moment, there's no,
we're not given those figures as to how to break down all that stuff.
that's what I mean by,
So we need to,
I
it needs to be provided by people that are involved in the grant management. You know, I mean, if we,
So what he's saying is Mr. Boyd's not tracking that, what they're using for the grant, what's going, overtime for the grant, what's going on for what we're doing that's going to the grant.
and
He's not
that's what
tracking
I'm
that.
saying, I was under the impression that was being
I'm
done.
saying there's no separation.
Perhaps out.
When the overhead, when payroll figures are given to us, it's not
No
broken
delineation.
down by, you know,
Right.
so I'm saying, when somebody
So that,
turns in those reports,
Yeah.
to come up with that.
yeah, so that's what I said. So from our management relaying that message to you, and then you and her relaying that message to us. Because for the past couple months now, before we gave it over to MATA, I was under the impression that the grant was reimbursing us for the overtime. Now, actually looking at it in the breakdown, it's not there.
We've never been involved in providing grant, grant
Okay.
income.
Well, the mess is already here, we gotta clean it up. So,
I think
Who's been turning in grant reports? I'm not involved in it.
maybe, I think what you're saying is you're asking John Boyd to have a conversation with Becky about,
yeah, because
How
I don't
these
know
monies
if,
are
I don't know
going
if
for
she's keeping track of that and not relaying it to him. And then on the other fence of it, it's something that needs to be illustrated as letting the community know for transparency, because when we see the total of that overtime, it could be less than that we're paying and the rest going into the grant. But if it's just this line item, we're under the impression that's how much we're paying in overtime. And for this time, I thought that's what we've had here, and apparently that's not it. So we have to have some clarity on that.
What's shown in here is the total overtime.
That was
We've
presented to
never-
your office.
Yeah, because we don't get a breakdown of what it applies to.
Understood. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but that's something we gotta, us as a board, we gotta direct manager to give us the figures and let us know where we're at on that.
And any numbers that we know are broken down, we can account for in different accounts. But typically, we don't get that information, we get total hours, total this.
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you.
Anybody have, Mr. Cortez?
So, John, October 1st is the beginning of our fiscal year, right?
Yeah.
So, looking at that same total that we're looking at, we're 19,000 in overtime so far, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you go to the first page, I'm trying to figure out how this is, the budget was calculated for salaries. Right now, we have a variance of 32 grand.
I'm not sure if we didn't pay some,
So either we have more employees than what we budgeted for, or we under budgeted, right? Because even if you take the 19,000 overtime and you just had guys on 40 hours, we still have a variance, right? So if you look at the salary, the third column, the variance for salaries is 32,504.
now that's not on salaries, that's salaries, wages, taxes, insurance, and the federal retirement system. So there could have been like insurance, and they could be paid in multiple months at one time or something. So without breaking it down, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand I mean, it's 19 in
The
overtime.
breakdown of,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a breakdown back here.
So page 10 is, if you go to page 10, they got a bunch of breakdowns on there.
On all of, page 10 is the breakdown of what personnel expenses are.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where you see the overtime of 18,000.
The overtime per month is 18,000.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is everything else is planned except the overtime, right? So then,
That's planned, I mean, it's one, that's one of the categories, but all these numbers right here add up to the total line item right here.
I believe what Cortez is probably saying is like, for overtime, it's like a cap, like, you know, it has its own thing of 200 hours, and then it has a figure behind it. I don't know if that's what you're saying, Cortez?
yeah.
Yeah, so what it is right now is that this is coming out of the salaries, so it doesn't have its own line item like, okay, we're gonna have a cap of overtime, and that's all you have, because right now they're just digging into the salaries.
I think it'll clear up a little bit on the variance. That's why it's kind of throwing me off a little bit. if we had a better clarification of the,
It's like if we're gonna count for overtime for the year, how do we account it? We'd either have to put a number to it, or we're just gonna say this is what we have for the budget, and this is what we're gonna dig into.
no, so I see page 10,
Page 10 is the real number.
but what was the budgeted number is where I'm getting at, for page
Well,
10?
The budgeted number for all these items together was, for the month, was $135,504.
Yep, I got that.
That was the actual. The budget was $102,999.
Yep.
So if you look at all of that together, these are the budgets.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is it's kind of hard for us to see what is over budget on it. So that's why it's a little confusing, because you have the variance over here for the totals, but there's no variance
Well, the problem
on the
is, if
breakdowns.
you try and show all 6 of these accounts that are here, and that can be done, but the sheet gets so.
Yeah, well, I mean, payroll tax, workers' comp, all that, most of that is fixed, the retirement is fixed, most of that is pretty, we know the numbers, so where I'm trying to get at is, it's kind of hard for us to see what the true hit of all that overtime is, so we know the overtime, but, it kind of muddies it up if we're if we're even budgeting for our regular 40-hour guys, or are we under budgeting is where I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's like the overtime, for every month that there was a cap of, you can do 40 hours, so we could foresee down the road, every month 40, 40, 40, 40, but the way it works is that we have our salaries set, and then we don't have a cap, but we don't have no way to say how much overtime throughout the year we're gonna have. So somewhere, it'll be pretty good and smart for us to set a cap for that, saying, okay, this is your salaries, nothing should really change unless, raises come in or stuff like that, we're gonna foresee that, but then the overtime has to be something that we could better manage, because
I'm just saying that we do account for the overtime on this page right here, every single month.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the overtime being paid is on it. So, but you can't, when we're in the rainy season, when a hurricane comes through,
Yeah,
the overtime's way up there, but sometimes it's not.
And that's what I was gonna say, because I remember when we had them from 8 to 5, we gave strict instructions, and correct me if I'm wrong, we gave strict instructions that they work the 8 to 5, unless it's an emergency item. When we heard about the reimbursement from the grant, the board was lenient enough and allowed for the overtime to continue, because we thought of the reimbursement. Now,
Well, something I just thought of, the month of October is when we had the huge water problem. So that's why there's $18,000 overtime.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, is that they were working on a grant item that was supposed to be reimbursed, but it's not on here broken down. So really, we're paying for that overtime. But what I'm trying to get at is, a couple months ago, and I'm gonna have to go back and check my record, when myself, said 8 to 5, we were opposed by our interim manager to put it back to 7 to 3, because that's what the workers like, under the impression that more work was going to get completed with that new time schedule, but they were to strictly work on that time schedule. Then we were advised that the grant's going to be reimbursing us, so we allowed the overtime to accumulate due to some of these hot ticket red items that were popping up due to rainy season. Now that it's broken down in this sense, and it seems like there's no item here, the county's accumulating all of this overtime that we're now having to pay. There's no directive cap from what board member Self is bringing forward. So it just continues and continues. And we have to pay that out of our regular budget. This is me as a board member, isn't that alarming to you that there's no directive? Because from my understanding is, from when Self had brought it up 4 or 5 months ago about the overtime.
We bring it up all the time, almost every month.
We addressed it with the time frame. We addressed it with the time frame that they were only supposed to work strictly to their schedule. Then we changed it again to allow them to work it due to the grant reimbursement.
I don't know when people turn money in for the grant reimbursements, that's not anything we're involved in.
So,
I mean, y'all need,
That's a,
we
that's a
can generate
decision.
some information.
But the board,
Us as
We-
board members,
we-
we gotta do this, because the thing is that this issue with the overtime has been something that has went on since the previous.
but I'm saying, what, my point is,
And we
we
gotta get it
did, the
accounted
board,
for.
that's what I'm saying, we as the board gave a directive. If, I'm gonna go back and check the note, the meeting notes and check back, we, the board, because I was the chair, I couldn't make a motion, I was just proposing it. The board had voted that we should not exceed no overtime and they should strictly work on their schedule. Then when our interim manager came back and advised us that the overtime is being paid by the grant, the board then re-voted to change the hours from 7 to 3 and overtime can continue because it was getting paid. So I'm trying to get an understanding is, during that time of us instructing that, was there anything that was done with your office in breaking it down and separating it?
Has to come from the manager. The manager, he's only gonna know what she gives him.
I mean,
That's
you're looking,
how that's gonna work.
I mean, the way bookkeeping is done, when we do the payrolls every week, is that information has to be given to us, so, separated in this manner.
Yeah.
What we get is what each person is supposed to get on their check. If there's more breakdown than that, we haven't been getting.
So it's just something us as a board, we're gonna have to direct for her to give you that information, you put it on here, and then we know that whenever this overtime is done, what's gonna be,
If they've got
get back
records
to the
of
grant.
it, we can figure it out
Yeah.
from whatever records they have. We just haven't been given any of that at this point.
Yeah, that's something we have to get done, because he can't do nothing that we don't tell him to do. And same thing as the manager, we gotta direct the manager to give that information to him, and then he could break it down, and then if it doesn't get provided, then he'll be the one in the hot seat, and the manager.
Let me ask you another question, Mr. Boyd. So the first month's budget for salary, insurances, taxes, and all the above, you have, we have a 12999.59.
Basically, what he done there is, he takes the year-end amounts, the computer divided them by 12, that's all it takes about, 12 months.
So even if we take out the 18,846.60 overtime, that give you 116,651.79, so we're still over 13,700. So, do we hire new people or more, do we have more?
We have one on the board that we're hiring.
But even though going back 12 months, last year, we can continue to carry without overtime, 13,658 for the next 11 months over, without doing any overtime.
That's what I was asking him.
Well,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
can operate
break it down.
the place, no overtime, when you have one of the biggest rain events. in
Forget
history.
about the rain, let's say nothing rained for a whole year, for 12
What are you
months.
expecting out of us to be able to, I mean, you say $18,000 is a lot, well, I guess it is. That's what y'all pay.
One of the best things that as board members y'all could do, go back to every budget, look at the overtime, and then and we've been through this a million times. If they say, well, we have festivals, you're not having 20 in a month, you have one. And then, we have a rain event, we haven't had that many. So, we understand that there's time for overtime, but then we know whatever stuff is excessive. Now, if there's stuff being worked on, drainage that the grant's gonna pay back, we need to know that. To where we're not sitting here looking at these numbers. I mean, the 611 hours, that's a normal number now, 400 to 600 every month. So go back and look from now all the way back to January, and you're gonna see that this is not something that just started now. And we haven't had that many rain events and stuff for all this stuff. And I understand that they're doing overtime, they're doing certain things, but we need to know where, if it's part of the grant that we're getting, and that's what it's gonna go back to, or it's not. So then we can start saying, okay, so you're doing this, but you're not doing this. You want to spend it on the grant, and this one you're not.
Just for the record, I mean, overtime is necessary, it's good to have it, you know, employee to work. But at the same time, that needs to be managed, down to where needed it. Not just do overtime and you clock out or whatever time without any, guidance or keeping track of the overtime. Otherwise, if we continue this track right now in the first months, we're gonna be at least $600,000-700,000 by the end of the September 30th of 2025.
But that's what I'm saying. This has been an issue for years.
So we need to put.
And when we
this
changed
is
the
time to put
time,
this- I mean,
that's what I'm saying, when we changed the time, when I was the chair, we changed the time, the board had given them the directive that there shouldn't be no overtime unless approved. When we got the directive that there was going to be paid back, I'm under the impression, and I'm gonna have to go back, and I'll correct my words next month if I'm wrong. We were under the directive that the overtime was going to be paid back by the grant. And then that's when I looked at you and her for directive if it was gonna be an item in the agenda.
Well, just to make this as clear as possible, we've never done anything with grant. Nobody's asked us to analyze and supply them with any information.
Can I put a motion?
Sure.
I wanna make a couple suggestions before we
Go
go.
ahead.
So, the one thing, guys, everybody here checks their emails. Moreno, you get
I
an
do.
email? So, the one thing that I've done for the last couple years, I always ask for their dailies. They send them to me, sometimes really late, but I still get them. I always tell you, you go to the dailies, they're gonna tell you where they spent the time, where they did it, because prior to that, you know, they went years without even accounting for that. They say that they did 100 hours of overtime, and when I go through all the dailies, there's not 1 hour of overtime accounted for. So now, they fixed that.
but it's still, it's way over. Anyhow, we need to keep the eye on it.
Right,
Now, we're not gonna resolve it
but
tonight.
my thing to y'all is ask her to send you the dailies. I asked
Oh,
before y'all asked for it, so now whenever you look at this, so what I do, I look at this 611 hours, and I go employee by employee, and I'm gonna see the regular 8 hours, and then where'd the rest of it go? Because there was one time where none of this was accounted for. And then that's what we need to, as our due
You
diligence.
guys just, we'll give you the weekly payroll thing, y'all approve the overtime, and then we'll pay it.
Are we approved overtime?
What's your
I
motion?
mean, every week, look at that and say, okay, this is.
Well, if they
approve
work
this
it legally,
overtime.
we have to pay it. That's against the law. We can't hold their
But we're not
overtime.
responsible to tell
No, I
them
get
what
that.
overtime to work.
I 100% understand that, John, but what I'm saying is the board gave two individuals a directive that after this numerous kept bringing up with the overtime, the board just voted that there should be no overtime unless approved by the board. It was brought up the following meeting that the overtime is being paid back by the grant. Then the board changed the time back to what it initially was, and it continued that way. And I was under the impression that that's how it was being managed, because it was going to be paid back by the grant. Now, after reviewing it after our new year, which October starts our new year, there's overtime. We don't know if it's for the grant or if it's overtime
Let me just
accumulated.
ask this question, because I don't know the answer. What have we turned in for grant reimbursement? I'm
Yeah,
not-
so that's what we're saying. We need to direct, because you can only do what we tell you to do. So we as a board, if we all agree to direct her to send you that information, and then you put it on here. Is that what you're getting at, Daniel? So we can keep account of what's grant money and then what's
But-
just
but
extra
it's-
overtime.
But my point is, why do we have to do another vote when this was already voted on?
You don't have to vote.
We just fix it
So,
right now.
every month, he produces a format here. What you guys are really talking about is the way in which the information is presented to you. And you want an easier way to track it against the budget. So month to month, I think that's what you're saying, one of the things you're saying.
Yeah, I think he's saying something
And
different.
so I think that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, it's done right here.
And it's up to the district manager to control the overtime.
Right.
That's the bottom line. I mean,
Because
that's-
if she says that all this overtime is strictly to be reimbursed by the grant, that's understandable. But how can we decipher the difference? And
Can't.
that's the whole thing that we but this is the thing that I think is getting you very upset and myself now, is that it's not broken down after we voted on this numerous times because it's a community concern. And the board made it very clear. But instead of harping over this, I put a motion to make it an item. And next month, we get a breakdown list of overtime from CCWCD and overtime for CCWCD grant.
I don't think you
So-
need a motion for that.
Okay, you-
You don't need a motion for that.
Just taking notes,
Just
so
take-
let
make
me-
it happen.
If we're given that information, we can certainly
Yeah.
incorporate
Just make
it
sure
in
that
our-
Becca gets them the
Put an
information.
email to her. There's no need to be a motion for that then. You just
Yeah.
send an email to the office, tell them what you need.
She's taking notes, she'll let Becky know.
And if she could just get us the most up to date, like from back then to now, to where we know where we're standing right now financially.
If I'm correct, if you look at her report, she like should have in folders. This month, just so you guys know, there were 2 folders that were done. So some of that.
Yeah, but
I
that-
don't know exactly how much, but some of that overtime is
But-
to those folders.
But what the board is saying, can you appreciate, but what the board is saying is they want a specific, they don't want was it 1 hour?
No, but
That's
I'm
all-
saying is
that's
just so
all
you
I'm
guys
saying.
know that, yes, some of
Yeah.
it this month will be coming from the grant.
Yeah.
How much that will be something that Mr. Hernandez will have to. let
Yeah,
you know.
it's the board, thank you, Kenya. It's the board getting with the district manager. Anything else with the treasurer's report? John? The treasurer's report?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that I did this month is in the agenda items that we went into, the research, the documents I prepared. Beyond that, I've been working with the engineer on the ERP permit from the district and submitting the request for extension of time today. We're working on the grant application for both the county and with Ovid Solutions on the DEP grant. Reviewing the 131 district manager applications, doing the top 10 list, reviewed and drafted a clubhouse foreman job description.
You missed 3, John.
I'm sorry.
You missed number 3. You skipped 3.
Oh, so made a public records request regarding the mailboxes, and the United States of America does not have any responsive documents. In other words, I sent them what's called a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, and if they had any documentation as to Central County or the post office's responsibility, obligations, historical role in maintenance of the post office boxes. And after 7 months, they responded and said, we have no responsive records. And I don't know, I spoke to Becky last month and she was gonna call that guy Tommy Griffin,
Yes, sir.
the congressman's aide.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been, he's a nice guy, but hasn't gotten much progress from him.
And that's been since like April, May as well.
Yes, sir. I sent you all an email last month about your financial disclosure requirements under Chapter 112. Just a lot of research and memorandums regarding the elections, the qualifying period. Did some research on public records requests and summarized the new special district law and drafted the performance measures document. And developed the district manager interview scoring process, the district manager job description, and we talked about the new ethics training.
Anybody have any comments, anything for the attorney, for the board?
Yes, I do. For the post office, is there any way that we can ask for an attorney opinion if we wanted to move forward with doing something and putting and utilizing the taxpayers' funding, to build something for them, as it is
Yeah.
as it is an issue that they're bringing up and nobody wants to take the puck on it,
Yeah.
and take the responsibility. Is there any way we can get an opinion if we can?
You get an opinion. I guarantee you the answer.
Road drainage recreation.
Correct.
That
There's
is it.
no way on earth that the Attorney General is gonna say, oh, sure, there's a need, so you guys are special. Go ahead and spend money on it. Impossible. The answer will be, we looked at your law, we looked at chapter 298. The word post office and mailbox doesn't appear anywhere in there. So,
Let me
no.
ask you a question differently.
No, he answered it. He
Yeah,
answered it.
I think he's answered it
We've
several
gone-
times. He's answered that several times.
Yeah, we've gone in circles with this. It's just,
You just gotta go back to your old foreman and ask him.
again, with all due respect, are these facilities a mess? Yes. Do they need to be fixed immediately? Yes. Is it within the mission of the water control district to do post office boxes? No.
It'll just be an opinion for somebody later on down the road that has the same question, to look it up, and they'll say mailboxes, Central County looked it up, and they said, nothing to do with road drainage recreation.
There's dozens of opinions that say districts, special taxing districts are what we call a creature of statute. In other words, we only have that authority specifically given to us by the statute. A city or a county has something called home rule authority, which means they can do anything they want unless there's a law that prohibits it. They're the opposite side of our coin.
So it's like your toolbox, you only have a hammer and a screwdriver that said, if you wanna put a wrench in there, you gotta ask for permission. So, all we have is a hammer and a wrench.
Do we have any more questions from the attorney's report?
Yes, about, a couple months ago, the board had asked for a directive to move forward into finding some solution of getting out of the 298 and something that's practical to helping us, help our community. Where are we at with that? Because I haven't seen that on anything
I mean,
recently.
I did a 25-page memo on this topic over a year ago. I'll resend it to you. It is you have to hire a lobbying firm and a financial economics firm to do the financial analysis. The statute has very specific criteria.
But the board did approve for you to do that.
That's way outside. I can't.
That's
I'm already doing so many non-legal things here that I'm way outside. Now, that would be an extra charge hourly.
We talked about that, about
We
quarter
did,
million dollars, $150,000 when we talked
At
about
least,
it.
yeah, to get started.
Take it out of Daniel's budget.
It's been done, but I've never done it. It would require hundreds of hours of work on my part.
And it's a process, it's not my
I
schedule.
went and researched it for you and laid out the path, but to actually do it, I would have to bring someone else in to assist with that. That's a major effort.
Wasn't a major part of that initiative had to come from the community themselves?
Yeah, so there's several options. It could come from you, it could come from the community forming a committee. I'll recirculate the menu. It's interesting, the statute has several ways in which a special district in particular can convert into a municipality, but it's a multi-year process that involves several $100,000 and hiring I'm not that guy. That's outside my expertise.
We can't get a grant for that, can we?
No, the reason why I'm asking is because the board gave clear directive to find a solution of moving in that direction.
Mhm.
What is the first steps that we need to do, with the help of Central County and your office? And now that it's been a year, I'm waiting for some kind of clarity of where we need to move as Central County, if we need to move in a different direction, because after looking at some of the county's proposed changes that they want to do, as well as surrounding cities, if we don't do something fast, we're gonna be the cash cow.
Yeah, and in the statute, one of the first things you have to do is hire an economist that would do a study. So you have a tax base, you draw a line around Montura and say, if you were a city, and if you did X millage rate, this is how much income you would generate. Because you have to make sure that you create an entity that can actually support itself.
Absolutely.
And so, we have to hire an economist to do that, and they would tell you, because, there's different villages, and, they would say, if you assessed, 6 millage or 3 millage, they'd show you the different incomes, because people, when they vote whether or not to incorporate, want to know if their taxes are going up or down. Here, it's clear they would go up substantially, because right now, I think it's $300 and some dollars,
For,
Yeah.
Per acre.
Yeah, it would definitely be a
another
couple of thousand. Because
for,
you pay, because how much
for,
typically?
It's like 4.25 per acre.
4.25.
yeah,
And I don't know what the county, what millage is Henry County?
pay a lot to them.
6.88.
Yeah, it went down.
Indian County 6.88.
6.88.
They got a rollback, right?
City of Poston is between 6 and 7.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then the city of LaBelle is in the 3 range, but they got a lot of MSBU's.
Correct.
Once you add all those, they're up to around 6, 7.
We're getting a lot of people that are moving here, and the biggest issue that is why I'm pushing it, a lot of people who are moving here to Montura, they're not getting the benefits that they pay to the county. And the 298's not working. After speaking with numerous different 298 districts, they are surprised that we're even still afloat. They're surprised we're even still here. And to be very straightforward, a lot of the constituents and people who live here, they can't afford to hire a lobbyist. But us as a body, we can help push the objective, like the golf carts, with the county's help. And it's gotten to that point where we're on that bridge where if we don't do something, we're going to be stuck as the cash cow, where the county can come and say, well, you don't have a budget no more, we're going to overtake it. Then what happens? Like the rural areas of Hendry County, left for the dirt, nothing happens. We still have a governing body that can merge into something else that can benefit and help its constituents. So that's why the board pushed it to help have your office see directions and see avenues we can take as a whole to better help our community. Because if we don't do anything, it's going to happen. History repeats itself, and if you look at other 298s that were diluted to rural areas, look how they're in, what shape they're in compared to the shape we're in.
Yeah.
And
No, I
it's-
don't disagree with you, I'm just saying that's way outside my scope of responsibility, but I think you need to hire a firm with expertise. I honestly, that's not my area of expertise. I wouldn't be the right person to do that for you.
Thank
But I
you.
can find you a
Yeah.
firm. that
Can you
do
find-
it.
yeah.
Sure.
Those recommendations, and we'll see.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Anybody,
John.
anybody else have a question for the attorney? None, moving on. Supervisor, Self, you want to start with your supervisor's report, if any?
I'm good. I got nothing.
All right. Daniel?
A lot of my questions were directed towards our interim manager. She's not here, so.
Supervisor Cortez, you have any questions?
No.
Processing?
I'm good.
Supervisor Moreno, any questions?
Yeah, I do.
On your report?
Clubhouse. I don't know if it's the manager or John. Be a good idea to go around and look at the facility, especially now the actual clubhouse, like the bathroom, the
Chemical room?
yeah, and take a look on plumbing, electrical. Some outside are very unsafe. You got panel, electrical panel with a knockout out of the, does have a KO seal in there. Behind the bathroom, there's a room that have the blowers. Take a look at that one. That is disgusting. So be a good idea to go around and be down on the safe side. There's a lot of kids running around. and we don't wanna have somebody get hurt.
Right, okay.
Okay? That's what I have.
Thank you. I have nothing on my end. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Meeting is adjourned.